Welcome to part 4 of the Data Visualization 2 workshop, Publishing Your Shiny App. So this will be a relatively short section, but not super short, and we'll talk about ways to get your Shiny app out there, launched, primarily shinyapps.io, but the method for doing that is the same method that you might use if you have an organizational Shiny server. And then later in part 7, we'll walk through the process of, or outline the process of running your own Shiny server, which is another option. And I'll talk briefly about Shiny Live as well. Okay, so shinyapps.io is a site provided by the Posit people. Shinyapps.io, here I'm logged in, so let me see the front page. Right, so the front page has more of a descriptive aspect. Shiny Apps is free to use for 5 applications, up to 5, with up to 25 hours of usage per month. So if you don't have something that's very busy and you just want to play around with it, it's free. As you start to use more hours, you might be asked to join a paid tier, and that's sort of up to you, the decision that you make about that. But certainly as a starter place, it is it's nice to have this free option. So the page that is linked to in Shiny Apps instructions here talks about how you get set up, right? So I have already done this on my machine, so I'm just going to talk about it. I'm not going to show you. But in order to use shinyapps.io, you have to have an account. So create an account. You also have to authorize RStudio to connect to Shiny Apps. So that is in the section called Deploying Applications under Getting Started. And they give you a little walkthrough. Essentially, you go into your account and you'll see this option for tokens. And this is the view inside my account right now. You click there, display your token, show the secret, and that will give you the, essentially the password type of information that your RStudio needs to store. And you do that by passing this command to RStudio. So you either can set the command manually or just copy it from the page inside the Shiny Apps website and then paste it into your R console and hit enter. It's a one-time thing. It'll get you set up. Once that has been done, you can publish from within RStudio. So what does that look like? We have our Shiny demo. I'm going to use the one single file app that we created, and here it is. There's this funny little icon. Is it funny? It's just an icon. Blue with the sort of implying some motion or circular motion. And that button allows us to publish. We can also, when we're in the view of the app, remember this is the one with the purple modification to the bars. There's also a publish button here. Same thing. It will bring up a little pop-up window. Actually, let me not do it here because I see the pop-up window is, well, we can rescale this with this as well. It's just funny how that works. So I don't want to upload just the other random files in my R directory. I just want to upload the file shinydemo.r, and I need to give it at least a 4-letter name. Let me call it unreliable. just unreliable. And I click publish. Now you will see some, actually it would be better for me to do this not inside. There we go. Okay, it is coming up. You'll get this summary of what's happened. Okay, it looks like it's had an issue. Yeah, let me try to do this not inside the little mini window. Let me get a little more control over the situation. It looks all right to me. I'm going to publish. Once we publish, it runs through its little generation script. Unreliable. Maybe this is an unlucky title. Down here, so it says deploying. Usually it packs up the file. I don't know why it would think this is a Quarto document. Yeah, so that had something to do with the fact that it was inside the little window. It's probably safer to do it like this from the regular RStudio. Now you can see what a normal upload process looks like. It bundles together the files that are needed for your app and puts them in a package that will run on the Shiny Apps IO.server, and it takes just a little bit of time for it to bundle and spin up on the server. You know, there's a lot of people doing this, waiting in a queue. And maybe I'll talk about something else until this process completes. I haven't seen it. Usually it doesn't take this long, but obviously this doesn't make for wonderful YouTube television. So let's keep talking about the other things I was going to talk about in this process. All right, so let's look inside the Shiny Apps account. I currently have 4 things available, and there should be a 5th once this process completes. These are all sleeping because once you click on them, they launch and activate. Let's look at this BTAA. This is a little app that I developed. The apps get put at your account name. So my account is Ryan Data. The URL becomes ryandata.shinyapps.io / whatever the project name is. And once they're on the site, we can also download them again, pull them back down. We can archive them if we don't want to actively use them and use up our 5 slots. We can archive them and reactivate them later. So that's still within the free usage. And of course you can track a little bit of metrics. Like my stuff is just, none of these are really publicly exposed. The BTA one is a comparison of library staffing that I did a few years ago. You can see it takes a little while to spin up a sleeping app. And here's Rutgers compared to other Big Ten institutions, which we can then compute the raw numbers of staffing and the staffing per student, per faculty member, and check not only the totals, but the numbers of librarians in different fields. So this really just has 2 pieces of interactivity, one pull down and one radio button. The other thing that I had promised to mention along the way was the references from the shiny site, not that Shiny site, but the main Shiny website. And if you go to reference here, you'll see the list of all these functions, right? So I was referring in the previous section to, there's not only fluid page. Okay, now it finally, it popped up once that was ready. So we're going to go back to that in a second. Let me just finish this bit of information. We had sidebar layout, sidebar panel, main panel, but you can do things like split layout, vertical layout, inputs. We saw sliders. We've seen buttons. You can have text input, checkbox groups, so you have a lot of these sort of standard options of how to set things up. You can even insert HTML, like if you do want to get into greater amounts of customization, there are tools to do that. So, you want to edit the style, the background, and things like that. There are ways to do that as well. I mean, from my point of view, the advantage is the simplicity and like not having to do all that. But sometimes if you wanted to take a Shiny app and make it look like it's part of the rest of a site, you have those options. And here are all the functions related to reactivity. As I said, it's something that for complex apps builds in complexity. We have various sort of helper, utility, other functions. For my purposes, I've never done anything that complicated, but it does have the tools to manage more heavy-duty type of applications. Okay, so we've looked at the function reference. We've looked inside the Shiny Apps account. And now let's go back to the RStudio, and you can see that it did complete the installation. It pushed the image up to the Shiny Apps website, and then it told us that it's been successfully deployed to I did end up logging into Ryan Womack. Okay, so I have my other account, Ryan Womack, and for this session, for the purpose of this session, it went there, and you can see at Ryan Womack, shinyapps.io/unreliable, we have, looks like the same thing, right? Same familiar thing that we've seen all along, but it's running on the web from shinyapps.io at this point. So obviously something different there. Now it would be universally accessible, although I think I'm going to take this particular demo down after loading this this video. All right. So the other thing I wanted to mention about the publish button is that the publish button is the same mechanism if you did have a like a organizational installation of a Shiny server, or what is now called POSIT Connect. Right, we'll talk about this in part 7. The free version is called Shiny Server. POSIT Connect is their supported commercial heavy-duty version. So you can connect that as well. So if you were in an organization where someone said, hey, publish your material here, the publish button could push to a specific server. And if we wanted to publish this material to our own site, I'll talk about that in part 7. Right, part 7 is actually the extra part compared to previous workshops on this topic. So for me, the value of these tools is that even though there is a lot of commercial supported versions, there's still a pathway to free open source usage where you can have your own version that's under your control. Okay. And so finally, in terms of publishing, except for part 7, which is coming, there's Shiny Live. And this is something that I had only learned about recently. It's obviously still in a beta version. But Shiny Live is a place where you can directly upload your Shiny code to run in the browser, right? So you don't need a Shiny server. You can simply use the browser. And so there is a Python and an R version of this at shinylive.io. I'll just let you see the examples here, right? So example, here's an app.r file, and it's launching and loading right now. This is our same old faithful data. And I wonder if any of my blockers might interfere with this. I have not tried it on this computer. Okay, now it's starting. Interesting. Okay, so I had tried this on my work computer before. This computer is a little more locked down. So the shields from Brave browser are not the issue. It does seem to have, again, this runs in the browser, so it requires your browser to sort of do stuff. Oh, here we go. Okay, maybe it just needed to get a little more warmed up. There we go. All right, now we have our, I'll move my face out of the way for a minute. Let's shrink me off the screen. And we have our bins. We have become overly familiar with the Geyser data now. It runs in the browser. We should be able to edit. Where is the histogram? I see. The color is the hex code, right? So if I replace that with my thistle and trigger, I think I have to press, rerun app, right? So there's a little button there to rerun the app, and it does a live update. So I can edit the code on the web. I can have it run. It's a different approach, right, to serving up the information that this Shiny Live project is taking. And as they say, let me just back up, that the package itself allows you to export applications to a directory that can be hosted on a static web server. This is all relatively new, right? Also, you can embed Shiny applications in Quarto web documents. All these trends are converging. This is something that's been going on for the last several years, is that the interactivity becomes even more interactive and more flexible. Like it pops up in many different environments and cases. So this is an example of that. Like I said, Shiny Live is still relatively new to me, but I wanted to mention it was brought to my attention by the graduate specialist that's working with me, actually. And, certainly looks interesting and promising. It lets you access the power of Shiny in different contexts, other contexts. Now I'm back in the corner, and I'll stop here for publishing your Shiny app and talk briefly. The sections 5 and 6 are pretty short. I'm really just going to talk about the pointers to these other concepts, but I'll keep those in a separate video. See you in those.